It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, folks, today we're going to jump on the gigantic Sharp interactive board. I want to go through Sharp's first quarter, FY 2024. We'll remember that last year when Sharp ended FY 2023 in March of 2024, they had a massive impairment charge in the display device business unit, and it caused Sharp's FY 2023 operating profit to fall through the floor. As Sharp enters FY 2024, their first quarter results, they have an operating profit loss of nearly $40 million. Sharp's aware they got a problem. Sharp's aware they got to divest themselves of a problem child. At the end of FY 2023, they came into the marketplace and they said, hey, we have a problem in our device business unit. We have a factory in Japan that we want to turn into an AI data center of sorts. The electronic device business unit, we want to sell that off. Sharp, you're going in the right direction. You got to get rid of those assets for sure, because they're definitely huge liabilities at this point. So without any further ado, I want to share some thoughts on Sharp's first quarter, but I also want to share some thoughts on something I've been sharing with all the industry's actors for a long time. And what I keep telling the conglomerates is this: you're only as strong as you are as a whole. In other words, you could have business units that are killing it profitability-wise, but if you have business units that are eating up all the profitability, it's not good for the conglomerate as a whole. When I think about Konica Minolta, you know, Konica Minolta's had some financial issues for more than a few years, right? You've all seen the videos. But at the end of the day, if Konica Minolta divested themselves completely of the problem child, especially around that medical business unit they have, if you look at just their print business, it's not knocking it out of the park by any stretch of the imagination. It struggles to produce operating profit above 4 or 5%. When I look at Ricoh, you know, Ricoh, the conglomerate in our space that's really mostly around print and print services, if you look at their operating profit going back from 2019 to 2023, it's dismal at best. And so today I want to share some numbers with our friends over at Sharp. What does Sharp look like from an operating standpoint in their smart office space? And that's where we all live, smart office, right, for Sharp? Folks, going back from 2019 through 2023, they've never lost money. They've never lost money. They didn't lose money during COVID, during all the supply chain crisis. You can't say that about Konica Minolta's print business. You can't say that about Ricoh's print business. And like I said, Sharp's on a path to clean up what they consider to be a mess. They got to divest themselves from the device business unit. And when they divest themselves from that unit, if you look at their brand business, where Smart Office lives, that's a pretty strong business model. But Sharp, I do have some cautions for some of the places I see you headed within the Smart Office. So without any further ado, let's jump on the board. I want to share some thoughts with you. Top line revenue for Sharp for the first quarter was $3.6 billion. They had an operating profit loss of $39.5 million. Not good to have operating profit loss. Sharp gets it. We'll see what they're going to do about it. Let's dig into the numbers. Let's talk about the brand business. In the brand business, you got Smart Life and Energy, their appliance business. You got Smart Office, all those friends of mine that sell supply and service print equipment. You got Universal Network. The revenue for the brand business as a whole was $2.3 billion for the first quarter. They had an operating profit of $98.6 million or 4.3%. Let's focus in on the revenue for Smart Office. $1.1 billion for the first quarter, operating profit of $57.3 million or 5.4%. But ladies and gentlemen, here's the problem child for Sharp. Let's look at the device business. Top line revenue for device business for the first quarter was $1.3 billion. They had an operating profit loss of $103.4 million. Yes, Sharp, divest yourself from the device business, from the display device and the electronic device. Get rid of it. And when you get rid of it, you're going to look pretty good with the brand business. $2.3 billion in total sales, operating profit of $98.6 million or 4.3%. But when you look at that Smart Office, again, $1.1 billion top line revenue with an operating profit of 5.4%, $57.3 million. Ladies and gentlemen, Sharp's aware they got to do something with this device business unit. The AI data center, that seems pretty interesting. How will they monetize that? How will they form a partnership around that? How will that add profitability to Sharp? We'll see. When I think about the electronic device, they're in talks with Hanhai about that. We'll see where that goes. But I say get it sold. Get it sold. Get away from that factory. Clean all this crap up. And you're going to look pretty good as a company. I wanted to dig a little bit more into the smart office. Sharp, you did $1.1 billion. You had $57.3 million operating profit. But it would really be nice to know what you're doing in revenue and profitability in all the categories within smart office. You got PC sales, you got glass and visual technologies, you got software SnapX, you got MFPs in the office, and you got production print now. You put on those big boy pants, you got into production print. Share the numbers, share the profitability so we can see the growth of that. You're talking about IT, security, Sharp, IT services, IT security. I don't know how much louder I can say it, but don't do it! Learn from your peers. Learn from Konica. Learn from Ricoh. Don't do it! Focus on what you do well. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Sharp. I wanted to compare your numbers to Konica Minolta's numbers for Konica Minolta's print for the first quarter. We know that Konica Minolta has two business groups for their print business. They got Digital Workplace, which includes their DWDX, which is their IT services and software solutions, right? That generated $154.1 million for their first quarter. Their office, their MFPs going into the office, generated $863.7 million for their first quarter. Their professional print, that's where they got their production print. Production print for the first quarter at Konica was $283 million. Industrial print was $56.4 million, and the marketing services were $114.5 million. Sharp. Your first quarter, you did $1.1 billion in revenue. You had an operating profit of $57.3 million, or 5.4%. If you look at what Konica billed for their first quarter, they billed $350 million more dollars than you. Where did they bill that $350 more dollars than you? Well, we know they have $154.1 million for their first quarter, their IT and their DWDX. But also keep in mind that Konica Minolta has been in the IT services space for like 15 years. Sharp, is it your goal to go out into the marketplace and sell IT services and get up to a point where you could bill $154 million a quarter? If that's your goal, don't do it. Sharp, you could pick up that $350 million shortfall from Konica's numbers to yours by going out there selling production print, by selling the Dynabook, by selling all your glass technologies. You got so many things you could do to beat the revenue of Konica Minolta, but more importantly, to maintain beating them in operating profit. Because when you look at Konica Minolta's first quarter, they had a blended operating profit for their print business of 2.8%. And the reason that they have a 2.8% operating profit, I'm convinced, is because they have too much cost in selling and general administrative expenses to deliver all this IT stuff that they're not really billing a whole lot of revenue on after 15 years, $154.1 million. There's a lesson here, Sharp. You could go out there and pick that $350 million up just by selling production print equipment. Can't you? Let's look at the numbers. I wanted to take the operating profit for 5 years from Sharp, Konica Minolta, and Ricoh. This is just for the print business. Konica Minolta, I took the digital workplace, the professional print. I added up the revenue, I added up the operating profit, and here's what they had from the year 2019 through the year 2023. I did the same thing for Ricoh, and Ricoh, we all know that is mostly print business. But let's look at these numbers. Let's start with our friends at Sharp. For FY2019, they had a 1.3% operating profit. Nothing to write home about. In 2020, they had 3.1%. In 2021, they had 4.4%. In 2022, they had 2.6%. In 2023, 5.1%. First quarter of 2024, they have a 5.4%. Let's compare that to Konica Minolta. The first year, 2019, they had a blended rate of 3.7%. In 2020, they lost $72.3 million. In 2021, they lost $35.5 million. Those 2 years combined had $107.8 million loss. In 2022, they came in with a 3% blended. In 2023, they came in with a 5% blended. The first quarter of 2024, they're at 2.8% blended. Look at Ricoh. 2019, they had a 3.9% operating profit. And then they just went to hell. In 2020, they lost $312.6 million in their print business. $312.6 million loss. In 2021, they had a 2.3%. In 2022, they had a 3.7%. In 2023, they had a 2.6%. Their first quarter for 2024 is 1.1%. Sharp, don't go down the road of Konica Minolta and Ricoh. And I believe it has to do with selling and general administrative expenses. Sharp, you're a manufacturer. If you look at your Smart Life business, the appliance business, you manufacture stuff, you sell it out, right? It goes out. You sell it wholesale out. I think about the print business, the MFP business. Do you really want to control massive direct operations? Do you really want to start adding a bunch of costs to do services around IT? Or do you want to manufacture stuff that you distribute out through dealer networks? Because when you look at your cost of sales as a conglomerate, Sharp, it's 84% of your revenue. 84% of your revenue is cost for sales. But here's the interesting thing. Your selling and general administrative expenses as a corporation are 17.1% of your revenue. When you look at Konica Minolta, selling and general administrative expenses are 44.7% of their revenue. They have a higher gross profit, but it's not high enough, which causes them to have really crummy operating profit. My friends at Sharp, my friends at Konica Minolta, my friends at Ricoh, all my friends in the space, it would be really nice to know what the selling and general administrative expenses are just for the print business. Wouldn't that be nice to get some real comparisons on that? Because Sharp, I'm convinced if you looked at Konica Minolta's general and selling administrative expenses for just their print business, it would scare the hell out of you. You would say, there's no way in the world we're going to get into stuff that cost us that much to deliver in the marketplace. When you start looking about IT services and security services, that costs a lot of money to get into the marketplace. Don't do it! Sharp, if you look at your FY 2023, total revenue for the company was $15.8 billion. Smart Office did $4 billion of that, 25.5%. When you look at Konica Minolta, they had a total revenue of $7.9 billion. $6 billion of that came from the digital workplace and the professional print, their print business. 76% of KM's total revenue. Sharp, here's what I believe. I believe even if KM can fix and clean up and divest themselves of their problems, they don't have enough discipline in the print business. And they're doing things that cost them too much in the print business. But when I look at Sharp, even if you got rid of the electronic device and display device, got rid of that whole device business unit, you would have a bigger piece of the pie of the Sharp revenue. But Sharp as a whole would look good. The print business or the Smart Office would look good. Just don't follow in the footsteps of these other conglomerates that got into the marketplace doing things that cost them too much to do. My friends at Sharp, you got all this stuff. I keep telling you. Focus on displays and projectors and the Dynabooks and the SnapX and the collaboration displays, your copiers and MFPs. You got a new focus now in the production print space. Do you really need to be over here in the IT and security services space? Sharp, learn from Ricoh and Konica. Because everybody watching me knows this, status quo is the killer of all that will be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.